When you put students into groups in the classroom, especially if they're unfamiliar with working in groups, especially if you use technology, it's important to give them roles. You have to say to one of them, for example, you're going to facilitate, and your role is not necessarily to contribute to what the group is doing, but to make sure that everyone stays on task. This gives them permission, for example, to tap each other on the shoulder and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not chatting right now, we're supposed to be doing research or discussing. I make sure that the facilitator is there, and equally, if it's an activity where we're going to regroup as a large group, I would also ask them to appoint a reporter, someone who's going to speak on behalf of the group, because they also need some time to mentally prepare, and as they proceed, they can also gather more perspectives. One way that students get to use mobile phones in my classrooms are preparing for interviews. Many employers ask for digital interviews, and I give the students specific questions that they can record and practice giving interviews on in the lessons. They then post it to the discussion board. Now here's an interesting one. Say that you have a professor that contacts you, and you are on your smartphone and you want to respond, but you're standing on the bus and you've just been texting your friends. You might access email to have a different conversation and code switch with your professor in that same moment, and that you need to have the skill to switch back and forth. These kind of examples are very useful to students because they innately know that they use different languages in different contexts, but they don't necessarily see how the internet, and particularly the technology itself, has an influence on the modes of communication. The successes that I've had in working with students online come from the fact that they're integrated. So for example, when we have a lesson, I, at the very least, will have them do a quick summary, 100 words, post it directly to the discussion board. They're there to help each other see and how to do that. And it's validated as a learning space because we're doing it in the classroom together. I found that peer learning is one of the best ways to get students both engaged and equally to get them used to doing research together through social media using their phones. The best way to get them to do that is not just for me to direct them, but for me to facilitate their learning together. Students have to be inspired, which means that we have to see our role as a teacher also as one of leadership. So we're there to motivate students to want to think more critically about these devices and how they can be used to enhance their university life. How can you actually use the university's app to access the information that I'm telling you is valuable? If there's a learning curve for all of us, and they need to see that, again, that peer-to-peer interaction, even between themselves and the tutor. They need to see us learning, particularly when it comes to such cutting-edge technology in the classroom.